What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cosmic Wonder. We have some wild X-Men reports to go over today. Now, we're talking about the new X-Men film that should be coming pretty much immediately after Avengers Secret Wars. In Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, we'll see the OG X-Men return from the first Fox X-Men films. But after Secret Wars, in our new universe that is going to have the Avengers with the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, we'll see a new X-Men team. And today we got some pretty big updates about who Marvel Studios could be considering to play characters like Professor X and Magneto. And fans who are talking about this new report online seem pretty divided about how they feel about these certain actors playing these certain roles. We also have some news about who they might want for Jean Grey and Cyclops. Now, Cyclops is a very interesting casting rumor that's going around right now because we've heard from several different insiders at this point that Patrick Schwarzenegger is wanted by Marvel Studios to play Cyclops in the new X-Men movie. However, according to some accounts that have been filming the Avengers Doomsday set, Patrick Schwarzenegger is on the set for Avengers Doomsday right now. So this is a very interesting rumor because there are insiders who are stating he's not going to play Cyclops in Avengers Doomsday, but Marvel does want him for Cyclops after Doomsday and Secret Wars. Yet he's been spotted on the set, so he could be playing a variant of another character, and then when the new X-Men come, he could play Cyclops for the new X-Men. We'll have to wait and see on that, but since he's been on the set of Doomsday, it's very clear that he is working with Marvel Studios. So there really could be validity to him possibly being the new Cyclops of the new X-Men team. And for those wondering, yes, Patrick Schwarzenegger is the son of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and keep in mind he does have a pretty big in with Marvel Studios because Arnold Schwarzenegger is Chris Pratt's, Star-Lord's, father-in-law. So that makes Chris Pratt and Patrick Schwarzenegger brother-in-laws. So that's a pretty big in with Marvel Studios. And if we're going to do a fairly comic-accurate X-Men adaptation, he should be with Jean Grey, who now we have a report from Jeff Snyder from the Hot Mic podcast. He stated that Daisy Edgar Jones is one of Marvel's top choices for Jean Grey. Most people would most likely know Daisy Edgar Jones from the recent Twisters film and also Fresh that came out in 2022. And she's been in a lot of other movies as well. I thought she did a great job with Twisters, and I could totally see her being Jean Grey. Of course, she would have to dye her hair, but that's easily done. And I think Patrick Schwarzenegger would actually make a really great Cyclops. I think he definitely has the look for it, and I think him and Daisy also look good together. And they might end up being our Cyclops and Jean Grey. If this happens, let me know how you feel about it in the comments down below. Now, the next report from Jeff Snyder is going to be kind of controversial. I say that because I've already seen a ton of comments about this online, both good and bad. And the same thing actually goes for the rumored Magneto casting as well, but for Professor Xavier, Jeff Snyder states that Marvel Studios is considering Coleman Domingo to play the role of Professor X. Now, here's the deal with Coleman Domingo. He's very tight and very close with Marvel Studios. In fact, from what we've heard, they were considering him to replace Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror. But, as he said in an interview, he didn't want to come in and take over a character that somebody else has already played. He wanted to be his own character, which is totally understandable. But on top of this, he did go on to voice Norman Osborn in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the animated series for Marvel Television, which of course is still under Marvel Studios. So he said that he met with Marvel Studios, and he specifically said that his team also met with Marvel before he did, and we're talking to Marvel Studios a lot. So he's close with them, and based on what he personally said in an interview, he didn't want to take the Kang position, but that doesn't mean that Marvel didn't talk to him about other positions, other characters that he could play in the MCU. So as Jeff Snyder is reporting, Professor X could be one of those characters. The reason Jeff Snyder said that they're looking at possibly casting him as Professor X is so they can be different than the Fox X-Men. Now, I personally love Patrick Stewart's Professor Xavier, but I do really love Coleman Domingo as an actor. He's incredibly talented. He's a great actor. I can see him definitely working as Professor X, but at the same time, I do like the classic Professor X look. But to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't put this past Disney or Marvel Studios, and this very well could happen. And on top of it all, Jeff Snyder backs up some previous reports that we've heard in the past from other insiders and trades that Marvel Studios is also considering Denzel Washington as Magneto. Now, this is kind of a controversial report, but not for the reason you think it is. The reason it's so controversial is because right now, we know that Denzel Washington is going to be in Black Panther 3. He said this himself. And in fact, he admitted that he apologized to Ryan Coogler for spoiling it. So if Marvel Studios would cast him as Magneto, not only does that kind of give some problems for the backstory of Magneto and the Holocaust, but they would also have to explain how he would be in Black Panther 3 and in the new X-Men film. Now, there are pretty much two options for this, if he is indeed playing Magneto. One would be, since it's the multiverse, and since we're kind of getting a soft reboot after Avengers Secret Wars, you could just basically use the multiverse and the reset to bring him in as the new Magneto. We've already seen Chris Evans play two different characters in the MCU, Steve Rogers, Captain America, of course, and Johnny Storm, whose fate wasn't exactly that good in Deadpool and Wolverine. So Marvel has done this before, and they could do it again. The other option is that he could actually be playing Magneto in Black Panther 3. It would make sense that Magneto would seek vibranium. Now, there is a pretty big debate on whether or not Magneto can control vibranium or not. Although he is shown doing it sometimes in the comics, who knows what they would do for the MCU. If he can't control it, perhaps he is seeking vibranium to make his helmet so Professor X can't get inside of his head. So we can see how there might be a premise for Magneto to show up in Black Panther 3, especially since Denzel Washington is rumored to be playing a villain in Black Panther 3. So take this rumor with a grain of salt, but if they do decide to cast Denzel Washington as Magneto, how would you feel about this? Be sure to let us know. Now, the reports that they are casting for Cyclops and Jean Grey, especially younger actors to play Cyclops and Jean Grey, that kind of lines up with previous reports we've heard that Marvel Studios does indeed want a young X-Men team. Of course, they're going to be older characters like Professor X and Magneto, because you do need leaders, but we've heard that Marvel's new X-Men team coming up in the MCU is going to be fairly young and will most likely resemble the X-Men lineup from X-Men 97, the animated series. It obviously won't be character for character. That's not going to be the exact lineup, but we could probably expect a lot of those characters to show up in our new X-Men team. So that would be characters like Cyclops, Jean Grey, Jubilee, Wolverine, Bishop, Rogue, Storm, Beast, Gambit, and Channing Tatum is returning as Gambit in Avengers Doomsday, and we know he wants to play Gambit pretty much forever, so we'll see if he survives the soft reboot. But expect some of these major, well-known characters mixed with some lesser-known X-Men characters, because that's what Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige said he wants to do. He wants to explore the lesser-known characters that fans might not be so familiar with. And also keep in mind, we are going to start to see some X-Men in some recent MCU projects. We know the OG X-Men are returning, but Kevin Feige recently said this when speaking about X-Men showing up in Deadpool and Wolverine. He said, "I think you will see that continues in our next few movies with some X-Men players that you might recognize." And he also said that the storyline of Secret Wars will lead to a new age of mutants and X-Men. So again, right after Secret Wars, the X-Men are coming, and it looks like we might have a little insight on who Marvel Studios is looking to cast for these major characters. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts about all of these reports in the comments down below. Do you like these casting choices or not? Let us know. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news, rumors, or leaks. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.